Okay, I know I said that I wasn't gonna make you guys look at my face anymore. I lied. Oh, sorry. Um, YouTube is uploading a little slower than I thought it was going to, and it's preventing me from doing some other things. So, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and do some of the other quick lectures. They're all gonna be 20 minutes or less. Um, through YouTube as opposed to through Adobe Connect. And I guess just sort of, speak at the hip. I think that this book is very good as far as giving you a good brief overview and being very clear and not being very tedious. This was not the case on some previous editions that I have used either when teaching or when I took my introduction course, which was 10 years ago now, 2006. Jesus. Okay, so one thing though that I think your book doesn't really talk about, and maybe this is sort of a dated difference, a dated distinction, but it's one that I still feel is relevant, and I'll tell you why. So the book doesn't really get into, in chapter 21, we're talking about chapter 21 now, the book doesn't really distinguish between hard skills and soft skills for management the way that when I used to teach management, I used to distinguish between hard skills and soft skills, at least give people what the difference was and then tell people some examples of each. So I'm going to start out by doing that. And so things that are hard skills are things, such as actually creating programs, actually doing the day-to-day operation stuff. You know how to do it. You know how to put together a budget. You know how to conduct an interview and figure out who's going to be a good potential employee and that sort of thing. A hard skill is more of a tangible skill and something that can be learned in school, and also something that usually takes intelligence or IQ in order to do well. Whereas your soft skills actually take more emotional intelligence in order to pull off what they call EQ. These are more of your people skills, your ability to empathize with your employees, or even empathize with your community or things like that. And some of the things that get included in a lot of these soft skills lists would include emotional regulation and regulating the emotions and dealing with the emotions of the people within your department and things like that. Resilience, being able to stand up to the pressures that you're going to face as a manager and be able to keep going, keep doing what you are doing day to day without needing to check into the loony bin or something like that. But these are the things that are soft skills and take more of that emotional route in order to do successfully. Now, hard skills remain no matter which library you are going to be at. They still tend to remain the same. So for instance, and I'll use my current boss manager as an example, she is someone who knows how to use Cersei Dynex inside and out. So she is someone who, whenever we have a question about Cersei or something goes wrong, she knows exactly what to do to get things right. And that's a skill that's going to translate no matter where she is. So at my library that I work at now, she is capable of doing a very good job with Cersei Dynex, fixing problems, analyzing problems, generating reports, so forth and so on. But no matter what library she goes to, if they've got that same version of Cersei Dynex, which for those of you who don't know is well, basically it's for a lot of things including cataloging and circulation, but it's our interface for keeping things going within our library systems, and a lot of libraries use Cersei. You know, wherever she goes, if they're using that same version of Cersei, she's going to be just fine. Whereas soft skills, they tend to change depending on, or your competencies with soft skills tend to be altered by where you are. So the same soft skills, for instance, that I needed to be effective at a public library in my past, they were different from what I needed to be successful in an academic library in the past. So it's build soft skills, your usage of them and how much you might need to rely on or build a soft skill will change with the library organization, the library culture, and the people that you work with. Your ability to communicate is definitely going to depend on, and communication skills are considered a soft skill. Those are things that are going to change depending on where you are practicing. There are going to be some libraries where small talk from the manager is necessary and it's expected. I would say that that might be a regional thing. We tend to do that a lot in the South, and then things might be different at a library in another region, and I've seen that play out. I know someone who didn't do the soft skill kind of communication, small talk with his employees when he was in the South, and then he went to the big city and behaved the same way, to New York City, and behaved the same way, and everything worked out fine up there. So those things can change depending on where you are. And then hard skills, they tend to be things that can be either learned in school or they can be learned like through on-the-job training and experience. I learned how to use Cersei Dynex and how to catalog when I was a cataloger briefly through on-the-job training and skill and some school coursework. But the soft skills that I have, those I had to develop through trial and error and through experience, and just seeing what kind of communications work well, for instance, in the library environment that I'm in now, and which ones do not. And so I don't want to be one of these people that goes into, which is more important, hard skills or soft skills. And I think, based on what I'm reading in the book, they don't like to place skills and levels of importance over other skills either. I think it's sort of a trendy thing in the business world to talk about how important soft skills are and how they may even be more important than hard skills, in part because hard skills do tend to get dated. For instance, maybe Cersei gets replaced with something 10 years from now, so now that's a dated skill. Or that could definitely happen with these mobile technologies. That's a hard skill that people are learning, but they're going to have to keep up with the trends with these mobile technologies and, downloading library resources, for instance, on the Kindles and that sort of thing. But I would say that all of the skills are important. I don't want to be a stickler for one type of skill or the other. But I do think it's a useful distinction to say what are hard skills and what are soft skills and what are the best ways to learn each. So learn your hard skills through your coursework, learn it through your internships, learn it through your on-the-job training, and just learn the actual specific skills you need for day-to-day. But then with your soft skills, just kind of assess how things went during the day, maybe each day or at the end of each week or something, and say, when did communication between me and my employees fail, or when could it have been better, and that sort of thing. And as you keep assessing these things, you will build your skill set, because you'll recognize the error, your soft skill set. You'll recognize the error, and then you'll want to correct those. So having said that, just looking in the book, I'm just going to, again, I don't rehash too much of what the book already says, so I'm going to go quickly. But one of the things that I do like, and I think is very important on page 209 in your book, when we do have that distinction between a manager and a leader, and I'm going to read those out loud. A manager is a person in a position of authority in an organization who is responsible for employing human and material resources to accomplish the organization's purpose. A manager is task-oriented. Managers are knowledgeable and proficient at a set of well-known processes such as planning, budgeting, staffing, measuring performance, and problem solving. Their role is to help the organization meet the needs of their community in the most high quality and cost-effective way possible. Whereas your leader is a person who influences others to adhere to his or her ideas, values, and models of behavior. A leader is behavior-oriented. Leaders are inspirational. They have the skills and abilities to move an organization forward by looking for creative ways to solve problems, motivate others to achieve, and create new opportunities, while also staying focused on the mission of the organization. Now, again, so I think really with this distinction that the book lays out, they don't say it explicitly, but I think your manager is your hard skills person, your leader is your soft skills person, and I say that you want to do each, and you want to use both kinds of skill sets and be both an effective manager and an effective leader once you go into management. Some other things that are being mentioned in the chapter that I just want to expound upon really quickly. I think implementation of change is very important, and you will actually there are actually whole books specifically on this topic of implementing change within your library, and I used one of those books a few years ago to teach the management class. And so they have a very simplistic 3-step process that's listed in this book, but I do think is worth talking about, because even though it's basic, I think that it opens the door for you to consider what you're going to have to do in order to implement change. And when you do that, that's when you get into wanting to learn more, and then you can graduate to these full books on steps for implementing change. So we've got step 1, which is unfreezing, and that makes the organization receptive to change. And then you actually make the change in step 2, and then in step 3 you refreeze, but in doing that you ensure that the change that was made becomes a permanent part of the organization. And you want to make sure, I think, that all of these steps are actually followed, because there is potential that you will lose people at any one of the steps. So the unfreezing, to make an organization receptive to change. And again, I'll just use as an example, my dissertation research focuses on diversity residency programs in libraries, and if you don't know what those are, that's a term that you can Google, or you can email me and I can tell you what those are. But one thing that I'm seeing in my research is that people aren't always unfreezing things so that they can make an organization receptive to change when they implement these diversity residency programs. They're just implementing them without assessing the culture of the library to make sure that they're ready for this, or to prepare people to be ready for it, or anything of that nature. And that's one way you can lose folks. A lot of people who don't support the diversity residency programs that are going on in their libraries, they are lost because they went straight to step 2 and made a change before they did the step 1, the unfreezing step. And then also, you don't want to lose people when you're actually making the change. You want to involve everyone, every relevant person at least, in the change as you are making it. And then finally, step 3 with refreezing, make sure that the change becomes a permanent part of the organization. You want to make sure that the changes that you implemented, that they sort of, I want to say, just become normative in the organization, that you, in the library, that you make them just as much of a part of the day-to-day culture as the other things that have been going on in the library for years. And that's how you can ensure that the change, if it's a good change, continues and is a successful addition to the library. Okay, but you do want to do assessment, and assessment will help you evaluate whether or not the change that you've made is indeed a good change, and if you find out that it's not, then you need to alter it or scrap it. And I would also just say very quickly before I close out my little speech on this chapter that I do want to just jump to the collaboration mention on pages 215 and 216. When you guys are managers, you're going to be doing a lot of collaboration. You're going to be collaborating with people who report to you. You may be collaborating with managers in different departments. You're going to be collaborating with people in professional organizations and people in your state level organizations, and potentially other people, such as when you're an administrator, you're going to be collaborating possibly with your county manager if you're at a public library to make sure that the things that you advocate for are things that the commissioners of your county want to fund, or similar things could go on in the academic library. So this collaboration deal is very important, and I think that if you've worked in the library, one thing that you've probably seen are managers who sort of pit departments. If they're a manager of a department, you get these managers who don't work well with each other, and so then that actually ends up being contagious, and the department gets pitted against the other department, and we don't want that. We want to always remember, even if we are in an unfortunate position where we are competing with resources, for staff resources in particular, within a library, if we're one institution, I think we've got to take that one institution approach and look beyond what's best for my department. Always advocate for your department, because you don't want your department to get lost in the shuffle. But when you advocate for your department, I think you want to make sure that what you advocate for is something that will be beneficial to the entire organization. That's all I'm going to say about that. Read that chapter, guys. It's a good chapter. You'll enjoy it, and thank you.